Good morning. Good morning. Java Delight will uplift you. Stay tuned. The show is about to begin. Grab your coffee. Stay tuned. This show is about to begin.
Oh, okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm still very clearly waking up. Well, you said I thought I was just bringing people.
The intro.
Yeah, when you said that, I thought you meant that you would bring us in, and then I was going to introduce the people today.
Oh,
good morning, everybody.
Hold on. No. We'll redo this because there's no one watching yet, anyway. So hold on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Java Delight, the only morning show that gives you a shot of Java in the middle of the day, while also bringing you the delight of things happening around the world. I am Brandon Croucher, CEO of Delight Cafe CBD, Delight Digital Cafe, and I am sitting wonderfully with my sexy as hell, adorable hair, cute eyes, young, always sleeping, Gavin Kerr.
Hi. Hello.
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 How is Gavin?
Gavin's good. Gavin's very tired. Gavin had a long weekend, but it was a good weekend. My throat is my vocal cords are a bit sore. I had a lot of karaoke shows over the weekend that I was doing, and the crowd is very hyped up for Memorial Day weekend. So we were singing a lot of patriotic songs and yelling and all this nonsense at each other. It was a great time. And then yesterday, I spent 4 hours in a car because I'm actually very excited. My producer lives 2 hours away from me, and I went over to work on music, and then I also got a computer from him, so now I can put all of my vocals, all the demo tracks to my music. So I'm hoping that I'll have new music out for my solo stuff in the next few months. Actually, probably I'm want to estimate, if all goes well, in 2 to 3 months I should be releasing my first music since I've left the band.
That's awesome, buddy. Are you getting excited?
I'm extremely excited. This is kind of petty, but in all honesty, I'm more excited that I'm going to be releasing music before they do.
No, that's not petty. It shows that how strong you were as an individual to want to bring your best forwards at all times. But I want to see how your weekend went. I was on your side of town yesterday, and I sent Gavin a text, and he blatantly ignored me just so he could spend some time with himself. And I am 100% okay with that, as long as he was self-loving.
Not true at all. I was in the car driving 2 hours to my producer's house, and then 2 hours back.
Where does he live that's 2 hours away?
Oh, he used to live 3 hours away. He lives in the middle of Ohio. He lives towards Columbus. I'm not sure exactly where, but he's a bit out there. And then when I came home after that, I went to my parents' house and had dinner. They were having a Memorial Day cookout last night.
Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was pretty. It's pretty good.
My parents did a cookout yesterday too. They went out with their friends, and they do it every year. I decided to take part of yesterday for myself, and I spent some time alone, being comfortable, getting more and more acquainted with who I am as a person, and that was essential for me. Yeah. And it was a great time. I actually did spend part of the day with Sarah, and she and I just got to hang out, and we have not talked in a couple weeks. So getting to sit down and just one-on-one connect. And we went for a hike with a dog, and it was wonderful. I got back home and just started editing pictures because the day before, I got to see my great aunt. So my grandma's in hospice, and her sister, my great aunt Kathy, came in town. My aunt Kathy's one of the most amazing people. She's 80-something years old, 89. Oh my God, because my grandma's 92. And
oh my God.
Right? And she's just a spitfire of a personality still. Like literally, I haven't looked at pics yet. Oh, of your bedroom. Mandy Atterbury decorated her bedroom and stuff.
I saw she sent me it.
It looks very nice. I'm honestly not opening other things because my internet says I'm having extreme trouble today. So Gavin's having to run more of the show than me today. I'm sorry. I don't know why. I've already lost signal twice before the show started. But after we had dinner with my aunt, my dad and I drove separate. My mom and her drove separate. My dad took my aunt back to the hotel. And my mom goes, "I'm kidnapping you." And I'm like, okay. And we went to a beach not far from us, and we took a bunch of pictures. And I wish I could open the pictures up here and show you guys them, but like, it was really nice to be able to just have a moment with my mom because she's never gone and done photography with me, and she knows it's something I have a good time with, I enjoy. And for her, it was her first time stepping out on her own trying to do something with me like this. So we had a lot of fun and got some really great pictures of the sun setting and all that. So it's been a good weekend so far, you know.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I love that. It's been a really good weekend for everybody that I've seen to talk to. Everyone's doing stuff for Memorial Weekend, but it's also been kind of a chilly weekend from my understanding. Like I know here, at least here in Ohio, it's been cold.
I've been cold. I know you've been cold because we're not far from each other. But today's supposed to be nice. And then next weekend, we have the Mac and Cheese Throwdown next Saturday. And
that's next weekend?
Next Sunday. Next Sunday. I said the wrong
next
day.
Sunday?
Yep.
Okay. Make sure you text that to me so I put it in my calendar so I don't make plans.
It's cold here in Colorado. It's raining in Kansas. You know what? I just want to say thank you guys for joining us this Memorial Day. It's really like getting up, getting out there, getting going can be tough, and it's cold. Yeah. Like Gavin said, it's raining in many places.
We should go to Philly. It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, I thought you were referring to Gerald's fight because he had his fight in Philly this weekend. His first fight.
It's always sunny in Philadelphia. How'd that go though? Did he win? What happened?
He didn't. He was the opening fight, bro. He told everybody he goes on it like he'll be between 8 and 9 and stuff like that. And he really did think he was. I'm texting with people. We're organizing all the sponsors. They're like, all right, let's meet here. Let's meet here. Let's do a video call here, bro. We got the fight on, and it was the first fight. And Gerald came out, and these two started hitting. Gerald hits him once, and the guy goes to the ground. And then the guy starts just kicking, like full on as hard as he can to Gerald.
Yeah.
Gerald got one right in the nose. And I'm on like a video call and watching it on my screen. And I'm like, oh, no. And the next thing you know, like his face just bloody. Okay. Next thing you know, something went off in him. And he's like, did you just kick me in the face? And he's boom, boom, boom. Like, and like he went nuts, and it was like in a good way. And he ended up not only winning the fight, the UFC guys that were doing the pay-per-view, like talking, the commentators, oh my God, they were like Gerald Spawn coming out with a great debut, showing his swagger, like showing. Oh, Ben, we have Ben Winter coming on today, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to say hello to him, welcome him, and show him why Delight's Digital Cafe is 1 in a million. But Gerald wearing the Delight brand is always an honor, and getting to see him break into his zone. Like I've seen Gerald fight multiple times now in the ring. This was the first time I've actually saw the switch like trigger. But you want to know the coolest thing, Gavin? I've seen him fight 4 or 5 times now. He's never gone to the second round. And this one went to the final. Yeah. This one, the top countdown was going for the first round before the clock goes, he rolls over, gets the guy, and leans back and gets him in this like chokehold thing. And with like 5 seconds left, the guy's like tapping to get out. I'm like, yes! And I'm not even an MMA guy or UFC guy in any way, but when my brand is being worn by one of the greatest people I've ever met, I'm honored, you know?
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, this is actually funny that you mentioned the guy went down and started kicking, because we were talking last night, you know, just around the fire, we were talking about fighting and everything in different martial arts. And my mom's boyfriend, JD, looks at me and goes, you know the best thing to do when somebody's laying on their back and just starts kicking at you? And without even thinking, I just go, I don't know what. And he goes, just step back and just look at him. Just be like, you done yet? I was kind of hoping that's what Gerald did. Like the guy that got on his back, started kicking at me. He just kind of takes a step back and just looks at him like, what are you going to do, you awkward turtle?
I'm an inch away from texting Gerald and being like, so here's the advice that he was giving, because he did the polar opposite of what that was. Well, because the guy's on his back. And when you're a fighter, you get a guy on their back, you're like, F this, I got to get in there. And you get on there, and like you have to get in there quick, because if you let him get up, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when he's going to reset. So anytime this guy tried to get up, he was like, nope, guess what? You're going back down, mother effer. And he did. Yeah. I had my bright orange Gerald shirt on. I cheered so loud. I got my parents to come up here and cheer. It was wonderful. So, Gavin, what are you grateful for today?
What am I grateful for today? I'm grateful for a lot of things. You know, I'm very grateful that I have the family that I do and the way that we function, where I know that I can be around them and be myself and be completely loved and accepted. But then also I know that if I need to, I can go do my thing for a month. I can go off and be like me and live my life and everything, and then come back like we never missed a beat. I really do love and appreciate that. And I love that they can do that too, that they can come and go as they need to for themselves. Because, you know, just because you don't talk to somebody for a while doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means you got your other stuff going on.
I love that. Very well said, buddy. Very well said. With today being a holiday, are you doing anything?
Today, I do have a bunch of stuff to do, but nothing to do with the holiday. No, I got some personal errands that I have to run that I didn't get done yesterday because I was running around to the holiday. Yesterday was kind of like my celebration day, and then all these nights at the karaoke shows I've been celebrating the whole time. So
nice. You've been having some good shows lately. I've been seeing your Snapchat. You've been having a lot of more people, it looks like, start to come out.
Yeah. The other night was slamming. The night at Tony K's, there were not Tony K, at Teams. There was a whole bunch of people there, and they were all singing, so it was really great. But then they all left at the same time. It was crazy. Like, the place was completely packed, and then at like, I want to say 11:30, literally there was nobody there. Everybody got up and left all of a sudden. They were just like, they were tapping out. Yeah.
I mean, we're not Tony K is until 2 a.m. anymore.
No, that's true. That's true. Well, that bar is opened until people like leave, essentially. Like, they're technically open till I think 1 or 2, but they close when everybody leaves. So they end up having a really early night that night. Tony K has only had like 1 or 2 people singing with me, and then it was just me for the most part. You know, I get that there a lot. So that place is weird. Sometimes it'll be packed, and other times it'll be absolutely nobody. And this was a night where it was packed, but it was nobody singing. And then Hatfield's Good Grub, I had a party come in probably 30 minutes before I was getting ready to pack up. They came in already pre-gamed, continued drinking, ordering food, and I stayed probably an hour late. But I had a whole bunch of college kids in that party, and they absolutely loved me. So I'm hoping that they will be coming back for more karaoke.
I absolutely love that. Love that. Guys, don't forget to write what you're grateful for, what you've got planned for the day, and what you're grateful for there. Gavin, I think that sounds like a wonderful weekend. You've been having a good time. Are you karaokeing tonight?
No. Sundays oh wait, today's Monday, right? What day is today?
Right? Monday.
Today's Monday. Yeah. No, I don't have anything going on Mondays.
Nice.
So
I actually have a fun video I'm going to share with us this morning. It's not even like 3 seconds long, but it's adorable. All right. So when you're, hope this is okay. It touched my heart. The black cat is blind as his friend helps him through the path.
oh my God, that's amazing.
Isn't that adorable?
Wow.
Like, honestly, it makes you realize how we as people need to take care of one another more. Look at how their tails are crossed because they both feel comfortable.
Yeah.
This is just nature being nature. And my mom sent me this morning being all cute. She's like, look at this. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I love cats already, but this just made my day. So I had to start with that. But I want to say I am grateful. I am thankful for all the vets, we celebrate Memorial Day today. We all have family, friends that have gone and fought and gone and protected us. We're very blessed to have people like Brian Tracy, Brett Gordon. Grateful to have known veterans and to honor those who gave it all. What happened when they met up with the 3 blind mice? Have to be honest, Tokyo Bento, I don't think they caught him. That's a good one. We have people like Brian Tracy, Brett Gordon, Bob Seymour, who we literally get to spend time with every week, and I'm grateful for that. He says, I'm thankful for all my friends who have served in the military and those who proudly support them. Shauna Jones says, I am grateful for my friends and family that served in the military for our freedom. Honestly, we 100% are just in love with everybody being able to be grateful, share positivity, get out there. And then most of all, being grateful today for those who have served, being grateful to those who are here. I'm grateful for that I got my bed on Saturday and that my boyfriend helped me put it together. I love that, Mandy Atterbury. Congratulations. It really does look great. I love how you made that room yours. Maritza says happy birthday to herself, I think. Nope, read that all wrong. Happy holidays to you all. Love you guys. And she is so grateful. We love you too. I hope you're doing wonderful. Love all the new things you've been putting out. Your website looks wonderful. I'm very proud of you, Maritza. Keep going, girl. Keep doing you. I think she's already gone too. It went in a comment and then was gone. But I want to bring in a special guest this morning. He is a former veteran, and he is one that, please, everyone I think this is a great one. So let's take 1 minute of silence today to remember those who are no longer with us. Oh, good. Stovetop is here. Love you. Let's take a moment today to remember those who are no longer with us. I think taking a moment of silence is perfect for this. Let's just take a moment and into Brett Gordon's time. Thank you, guys. I want to thank you. A moment of silence. Silence is deafening. It really is. When you sit in silence, you're stuck to hear everything else going on around. And Brett and I were talking in the background about how Memorial Day is for remembering those we lost. And he made some pretty strong points about veteran suicide and veterans dealing with PTSD and veterans in many other ways. And it's not just the ones we've lost on the battlefield. It's the ones we've lost when they come home. And to have a moment of silence to honor these men and women. Thank you. Thank you. Brett Gordon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll bring the energy back in now. Thank you. Brett Gordon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. Former Air Force Marine pilot that made it into the Secret Service and then backed out just to be a part of the Delight Digital Network. Ladies and gentlemen, Brett Gordon.
Okay, well, I'll actually take credit for being retired Air Force. The rest of the stuff, I can only wish that I participated in all of those other things. I did get a chance to support the others, though. I did get a chance to support the Marines, the Army, the Navy, Coast Guard, and other government agencies, especially as a logistics officer in the Air Force. You get a chance to move equipment and people around the world for different activities, events, and contingencies. So that's the kind of stuff that I used to get involved in quite a bit. And in fact, one story, and it kind of brings into light and what we're talking about today is in 1990, I was in Okinawa, active duty, and I was kind of the mobility officer, which means preparing people and equipment to move via airlift primarily, and also to support other services that were flying, because we were the airlift arm on the island of Okinawa. The island of Okinawa, for those that don't know, is actually a huge has a huge U.S. military presence in terms of the Air Force and especially the Marines. And if the Marines ever deployed from the island via air, they would go through my operation. So in 1990, when Desert Storm kicked off, I was actually up in mainland Japan. My sister was up there going to school. This is before she went into the military, and I came back on a military aircraft because we can fly space available on military aircraft around the world at times. Mm-hmm. And I came back, and as soon as they opened the door of the plane, my commander was standing on the top of the staircase and said, "Captain Gordon, your leave is canceled. I need you to come with me right now and need to go and read these orders." And because that was what I did for my position. Yeah. And I go in there, and these are top secret orders. And I said, "Hey, sir, I don't have top secret clearance." At that time, I was still in the process of going through. He's like, "I don't care. You now have authorization to be able to read these." And that's the beginning of our support for Desert Storm. And it was a matter of me being able to read and kind of see what was going on, what had kicked off, what kind of plans we needed to look at in order to start to prepare and to get ready to do whatever we needed to do in order to support the effort. So that was kind of my introduction to the real world of contingencies and actions across the globe. And eventually, during Desert Storm, my unit was tasked to provide some people to go over to the desert. And as opposed to some fighting units where it's like the entire unit goes, and nobody has a choice or a selection process. For mine, it was like, okay, you've got 30 taskings that you have to fill with people. So each one of those individuals was somebody that I had to select based on their qualifications in order to fill the requirement that was being asked for. So it was me actually having to select people to go over and possibly never come back, which when even in the civilian world, a lot of times when I was interviewing for jobs, they would say, "What's the most difficult thing that you ever did?" And I'm like, having to select individuals to go over to the war and know that they may not come back.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, tell me something in real world. I'm like, that is the real world when when you're in the military. That is something that most people never experience. And that's a good thing that most people don't have to experience it. But on the other hand, most people and politicians and so forth that start to throw the military into different things have never been in the military, have never experienced that. And when they choose to employ or deploy our services, they're committed kind of like the chicken, if you want to look at it that way. They're the ones that lay the egg and then they go on living. But the military are the ones that are committed like the pig, meaning you go over there and if you may have to give it all and never come back. And that's something that I don't think most people recognize. And I guarantee politicians don't, because they've not even had people in their families that have been in the military. So it becomes a very distant type decision. And they're like, okay, we'll throw the military out there and do this kind of stuff, never recognizing really tangible effect of people not coming back. Or as we talked about before this, coming back after having experienced some of the things that they've done or seen and come back with PTSD. And although Memorial Day is officially to honor those that have died in combat situations, we also have to recognize those who have come back from combat situations and then over the course of time have committed suicide and so forth because of the PTSD and the experiences that they had. And I think that that's something that's very important. And what it does is it really brings out the fact that those numbers that you hear about of people dying in combat situations or in wars, like, I don't know how many people really have looked back to see what the numbers are for like combat deaths or deaths due to the war. But like in the Civil War, there was over 600,000 soldiers that died on both sides of that war. And you look at World War I, and they have a record of over 115,000 U.S. servicemen that died. These numbers are all underrepresented when you really take into consideration the impact of the coming home with the PTSD and the things and so forth that have happened. World War II, there was over 400,000. Korean War, over 36,000. The Vietnam War, and the wall in Vietnam where they have over 58,000 names. But again, significantly underrepresented when you take a look at the number of Vietnam vets that have committed suicide or died of different situations. A lot of it that the military has yet to acknowledge. If you ever remember, I was even young at the time, but Vietnam, they had something called Agent Orange. And Agent Orange was an emollient. It was dumped on the jungles in order to kill all the plants all the trees and all the vegetation so that they could create, landing bases and bases and so forth. But that stuff got also on our soldiers, and it had tremendous effect on their health when they came back. And it took years and years and decades before the military actually acknowledged that a lot of the things that the servicemen were experiencing were due to Agent Orange. And those same types of things have happened even since then with different types of chemicals that we use in the course of prosecuting a war. As I mentioned, I had a few friends. Well, I selected, actually, I wanted to go to Desert Storm. My commander said, no, you can't go, because if it is an extended war, we're going to have to deploy these Marines on the island, and they're going through your operation, so I need you here. What I did is I selected my second in command, a Master Sergeant, Marvin DeSell, and I sent him over there along with the other troops that I selected to go to Desert Storm. And what I can say is they all came back alive, which was great, but they all came back changed.
Yeah.
And at Desert Storm, a lot of people talked about how that war was, there were very few casualties. and in terms of direct combat deaths that they attributed to the war, that was true. But I can tell you that these guys came back, they were changed. It took a while for them to reassimilate back into the unit. And unfortunately, I didn't stay in touch with the guys as much as I probably should have. And just this year, I was looking back at a comment that Marvin had sent to me a couple of years ago via LinkedIn, and I kind of just responded back to him a little bit, but I never stayed in touch. And I come to find out that not long after he sent that, he died. And I could tell by the pictures that he went through some sort of cancer or something that really deteriorated his life. And I had another friend who was over in Desert Storm. Again, neither one of these were in the direct line of combat, but he came back from Desert Storm, and he had this thing where all of his platelets like disappeared in his body, and platelets are used to coagulate your blood.
Yeah.
So he spent many years just trying to survive this, and he achieved surviving until his daughters graduated high school. And then he succumbed to the disease or the whatever it was. And the military never wanted to acknowledge that it was due to anything that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We work.
Well, they can't. It's like your parent. It's like parents growing up. When you have parents growing up, your parents are doing the best they can, but they really have no idea what the hell they're doing, just like the government. I mean, so it's one of these things where it's building it the best way they can, but they're not going to accept their blame for the things they did. And they put you in charge of that. And that's a really heavy thing for you, because when these men and women get back, you're feeling the pressure of, well, I was told to send them there. I was told to do these things. And now they're dealing with PTSD and everything like that. And I say this as someone who knows a lot of veterans and has seen a lot of veterans over my life really suffer from PTSD when they get back and not get the proper help that they need. Not saying that not everybody doesn't, but I am saying it's been pretty obvious to see that veterans come back and they're totally changed human beings and need a special type of doctor to help them with things.
Yeah, and I don't think, with all the years that we have had in terms of, we basically, although we don't acknowledge it, we've been in combat situations basically forever as a country. So there are soldiers and civilians that are involved in these types of situations all the time, and the government doesn't like to acknowledge that there are things that happened that are our own issues. Like we work with benzene and a lot of nasty carcinogenic things that are just in the normal part of your duty. And also, like if you remember in Desert Storm, when Saddam Hussein lit the oil fields on fire, or told him to light the oil fields on fire, like in Kuwait and so forth. And I know from talking to people that we sent our soldiers into those areas where they could barely see the hand in front of their face, and they did not have the proper PPE, personal protective equipment, and were inhaling those kind of, oil burning fumes. I mean, so that it was, it turned their skin dark black because they were in this stuff, and that's what they were breathing into their lungs. And you talk about, what are the long-term effects of those types of things. So those are the types of things that I think that we need to also acknowledge, that it's not just those that died in direct combat experience and, came back and went through the mortuaries, which, that's another thing. When I first started in the Air Force, I was at Dover Air Force Base, which is the entry point for it's the mortuary essentially for anything that comes from Europe and in the desert area and came back into the U.S. So it was a big thing. And granted, when I wasn't actively there during Desert Storm, I was there actually at the time. Remember when the space shuttle blew up?
Challenger.
The Challenger. I was actively serving at Dover at that time, and I was there when the plane brought the bodies back. And at that time, we shut down the flight line. We had a ceremony when they came off of the plane. Those are the types of things that happen that not everybody gets a chance to experience, and and hopefully not everybody has to get that opportunity to experience. But you need to recognize those things that happened. And even the shirt that I'm wearing right now is Project Wounded Warrior. And that's for those that oftentimes people, when you hear Wounded Warrior, you think of those that are amputees and things along those lines, but you don't oftentimes see the mental trauma, the physical trauma of the concussion of being around bombs that blew up and things along those lines. And those are the types of wounded warriors that we still have walking around. I mean, they're walking wounded, they're functional, most of them, but they're still feeling it. And that is, that's something to remember, but also to remember there's Veterans Day, there's days of observance for those that are still alive. And then Memorial Day is really for those that have given it all for our country, either in direct combat or because of combat experiences and so forth. And there are even soldiers that, were not designated, were not actually in the military, that still fought for this country, still did things to protect this country. Yeah. And in fact, my dad brought that up last night. We were talking and he's like, that plane during 9/11, there was the planes that hit the Twin Towers. There was the plane that hit the Pentagon. And then there was the plane where the people on the plane actually heard about the hijackings and decided that they were going to do something about it so that their plane couldn't be used as a weapon like that. And they went down in the field. I think it was in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
But those were heroes as well. And they were not in the military. They protected our country. They actually all gave them their lives for this country in that one event where they essentially took the plane down because, the hijackers already had it and they fought the hijackers, and it eventually meant that they went down, but it did not hit whatever the target was that the hijackers had planned. So those are just some additional people that I think that need to be honored as really combat vets or combat deaths that we acknowledge and honor on Memorial Day. And as I'm talking about honoring during Memorial Day and the observances, I also think that we should celebrate the lives of those before they passed on, because it is thinking back of Master Sergeant Dennis Petco, the one I said whose platelets disappeared, and Master Sergeant DeSalle that I can talk to directly. And they had a very big impact on my life. And I'm so glad that I did have the honor of and celebrate what they offered me in terms of learning and in terms of being a friend and so forth. So I want to celebrate their lives and celebrate also their families who are there, and recognize that, I want to honor, but I also want to celebrate and respect the lives and the opportunity I had for actually knowing them while they were alive.
So knowing what you know now, if you could go back, would you join the same branch? Would you do the same profession in that branch? Like, what's the route that you would take?
Absolutely. I love the Air Force. I love being a logistics officer. I was able to, when I was at the Pentagon as a reservist, I also helped, in the Combat Control Center to support the logistics operations and the field operations that were going on in the air combat areas. And I felt that, I did my job very well to be able to help as much as possible. So yes, I would definitely do it. There's no doubt in my mind. The one thing that I will tell you is that although I love the Air Force and I love being a brother at arms with all those and other services out there, like Brian, like Bob, and others that are listening in. I do not and did not always support the policies that we were tasked to support. And one example in particular is while I was at the Pentagon after 9/11, which I voluntarily came back to help serve, I knew that we were going to go somewhere else after we started to wind down the Afghanistan operation. We never left Afghanistan, but we wound down a lot of the combat operations.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that long after 9/11. It was only like 8 months afterwards. But then they were going to recall me again to go into Iraq, eventually, is what it came out to be. And, we as the United States never proved why we said we were going in there, which was to prove that Saddam still had weapons of mass destruction. Now, do I believe that he had them before? Yes. Do I believe he employed them before? Yes. But we did not or could not even convince the Germans or the French that we had the evidence for the reasons that we were saying we were going back in there. And at that point in time, I had to take my own stand and basically say, first of all, they were allowing the regular guys, the guys who were full-time military, to go on with their normal progression in their career and going back to schools, professional military education. And they were calling in the reserves to fight the war. And I was like, this is bullshit. Why are the guys that are there full-time able to go on and do all these non-combat situations, but you're bringing in the reserves to fight the war and taking them away from their civilian jobs, their families, and oftentimes in the civilian jobs, they were making more money to support their families than they did when they came back into the military, which put a lot of families on food stamps. Yeah. And I don't know how many people recognize that there's a lot of military that are on food stamps because they're not being paid enough to support their families. And especially reservists that have gotten out there and, have a job that they're making more money. They have bills that are higher because they were able to buy that. And then they come back in the military. And you don't do that lightly. But I think that we were doing it lightly. We were using the reserves kind of like Kelly girls. And when I say that, Kelly girls, for those who don't know, are kind of like temporary agency, bringing in people to support, your operations, your businesses when you had people that went out or you had surges or whatever. Anyhow, I fought back, and although I had my name on orders, I fought to the Secretary of the Air Force. Not that I didn't want to go over and support Iraq, which is really kind of what I was trying to do through civil disobedience, but to say that the reason that the military was bringing in the reservist was wrong when they were allowing the active duty guys to continue on with their normal, non-combat type careers. And the Secretary of the Air Force agreed with me, and I got my name taken off of orders, which is highly, highly unusual. But then I also had to get out of the Pentagon pretty quick because I pissed off the 3-star generals. The general that was in charge of the logistics operation because I was to do that. So I did my last 3 years out here at Nellis Air Force Base, supporting the base and preparing that unit to be able to support any kind of war type scenario. So like I say, you can support the military, but you don't necessarily always support the policies that the militaries are tasked to perform.
True. Now, before the show, you and I had a good conversation. You're bringing up a lot of good topics, and I see things that people need to know about, especially for veterans and memorials on this day. Brian Tracy, CK Ford is a former one. She got that comment in right when I went to open up the Brian Tracy one. And she's a former vet. You have Brian Tracy, who's a vet. You have Mandy Atterbury. Sorry, Mandy. Bob Seymour, who's a vet. And then you have Jessica Dugas in there just randomly. And this is me just wanting to say hi to her really quick because her comment came in and I never said hi. But there's a lot of veterans in our comments. There's a lot of people that follow this that have seen pains and been dealing with this. Before we got the show started, you were telling me that you had some interesting statistics about Memorial Day that probably people didn't know. Can you share some of those with us?
Well, some of them I already did, and I talked about those direct combat numbers that you see when you pull up Wikipedia or you look at the history of the wars and the people that died, and you have to multiply those numbers by factors of 4, 5, 6, 10 to really understand how many people were truly affected and died because of the experiences that they had. I think that, when we really look back at the wars and why we got into a lot of the wars, one of the things that you're really going to find is one of the most common threads of any war is that it was for our economy.
Yeah.
Whether it be World War I, when the U-boats were basically one of the main reasons we got into World War I is because of the German U-boats that were disrupting supply lines and ships that were going overseas. The same type of thing happened in World War II, although, people think of World War II as Pearl Harbor. There was, Europe was already in with the Germans, and actually during that time there was an agreement between FDR and Churchill where although we were attacked and started to fight back immediately in the Pacific, there was kind of a focus on Europe first because they were starting to see that Nazi Germany was expanding and almost uncontrollable. So there was an agreement between Churchill and FDR in terms of which war was going to kind of receive somewhat of the priority in terms of support. But again, the thing that kind of brought us back into Europe was, again, the disruption of the supply lines and our economy and its connection to Europe. The Korean War wasn't so much that, it was that the Soviets were supporting North Korea and the United States was supporting South Korea. And then, when we got into it in North Korea, we didn't think that the Chinese would step in, which they did. And that's what really created a whole different war scenario when we were there. Vietnam, was kind of the whole thing. We fought a lot of wars against Russia or the communists through other countries. Even when you go to the desert, it's the same type of thing. Russia is supporting one side, we're supporting another. You look at whose equipment is being used. It's ours and theirs. And yet we're not fighting each other, but we kind of are. And those are the types of things that we need to look at and remember and be more critical of what's going on, because a lot of these countries have suffered. And I know I'm getting somewhat political here, but a lot of these countries have suffered because of the way that the U.S. and the Soviets or the Chinese and the U.S. or, the good and the bad are fighting in other people's countries and destroying their countries and their people and their societies, but not directly being affected by that in our own home countries. And I think that's, kind of not a good thing.
So I actually have some fun trivia for this. Do you want to play a game, guys?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, Gavin, you ready? So,
all right.
It was Memorial Day was not originally called Memorial Day. What was its actual name to begin with? Do you guys know?
Well, I did some research.
Oh, we're not doing multiple choice?
I don't. I'm making these questions. Fine. Hold on.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Just this one. All right.
Was it Commemorance Day?
You're actually closer than you think, but It's Decoration Day.
Ah.
Yep. All right, you ready? Next one. And I'll try to make this one multiple choice because I didn't write these questions. I literally found these as like a thing, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be fun. It wasn't actually celebrated on the last Monday of May. True or false?
True.
False.
Okay. The truth is it wasn't celebrated. It wasn't until after the Civil War when General John A. Logan, commander-in-chief, is the one of the Grand Army and the Republic called for a holiday commencement for fallen soldiers observed as every May 30th. But due to the holiday Uniform Monday, it is the Holiday Act, which took effect in 1971. Memorial Day was moved to the last Monday of May. All right, you ready? It is legally required. At what time of day is it legally required to have a moment of remembrance? Is it noon Eastern Standard Time? Is it 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time? Is it 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time? Or is it 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time? And this is an actual law. It is legally required to observe a national moment of remembrance. So you spend 1 moment in silence. Is it noon, 1, 3, or 6 that you're supposed to take a moment of silence?
Say 6 o'clock. Because I figure that's when some people are coming home from work. If they work in the morning and everything. I feel like the majority of people would be home then.
I have a 6 o'clock here. I have both of you said 6, correct?
No, I said noon, but
you said noon.
Tracy probably knows more than me, so
I hate to break it to all of you, but you are all incorrect. It is actually 3 p.m. 3 p.m. on Memorial Day. It is a law. It is not enforced, but it is a law where they would like everybody at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, local time, their local times on Memorial Day to do an honor to the fallen soldiers. So at 3 p.m. today, make sure you take a moment to just stop, look, listen, and give thanks. Ready? The other two aren't as cool. What city? They are, but it's like it's not something you would know without actually doing like any research. Waterloo, New York, is considered the birthplace of Memorial Day. True or false?
True.
I'm going to say true.
So, trick question. According to Waterloo's website, in 1966, Congress unanimously passed a resolution to officially recognize Waterloo as the birthplace of Memorial Day. However, it remains in debate with towns like Bolzerberg, PA, right, thank you, claiming the title of the birthplace for Memorial Day. So it is actually a controversy of where the birthplace of Memorial Day started. All right, ready? Last one. And this one's going to be a trick one, all right? How many millions of people in just the United States, and I'll give you a multiple choice, will travel 50 miles or more to celebrate this holiday? Okay? How many millions of people are going to travel at least 50 miles or more for Memorial Day? 10 million? 25 million, 36 million, or 50 million? All right, I'll repeat it again so everybody has a chance to answer. More than how many millions of people will travel over 50 miles to celebrate Memorial Day? 10 million, 25 million, 36 million, or 50 million? Shauna Jones says 25 million.
I'd say 36 million.
Gavin, sound a little bit more like you're alive. You poor thing. You sound like you just died on that guy. I say 36.
Yeah, I'd say 36 million. Yeah, my voice
Emily
is all messed up from this weekend.
Emily Caroline says 50. Tokyo Bento says 50. Bob Seymour says 50. Brian Tracy says 50. Shauna Jones says 25. I have some great news, ladies and gentlemen. Only one person is correct. Gavin Kerr is correct. 36 million people will travel at least 50 miles today to celebrate Memorial Day. So remember, today, while you're out celebrating with family and that, when you're diving into the pools, when you're getting out there and having a good time, there's controversy. Where was the actual birthplace of Memorial Day? Was it Waterloo, or was it that little town in Pennsylvania? And then don't forget to also take a moment at 3 p.m. today. The neighbor is outside right when I started talking, blowing his yard. I'm sorry if you guys hear that. Don't forget to take a moment at 3 p.m. your time today and have a moment of silence. I'm not sure if you know that actually is a registered, legally required to observe National Moment of Remembrance. Obviously, I guarantee most people don't know about this, but this is an actual thing that has been passed into law, and I'd love to see us take a moment to actually have everybody in our Delight community and around the world spreading that joy of love and appreciation for those who have fought for us. Gavin Kerr, who is our guest today?
Today, our guest is Ben Winter, who is an author. What to expect when having expectations. Speaker, actor, improvist, entrepreneur, traveler, father, and much, much more. He loves to explore, yes, physical places around the world, but also he loves to explore the mind. Ben certainly has been an idol, or hasn't been idle in life. A couple of years out of college, and he started doing things and going places he never would have expected. From traveling to a personal growth of marriage and child to divorce and parenthood, the entrepreneur, still waking up. The entrepreneurialism. I'm gonna get this damn word. I know what it is.
Entrepreneurialism.
I know. I can't pronounce it for some reason. Entrepreneur. I feel like I bit my tongue. Entrepreneurial.
You're getting better.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hooked on Phonics Work for Me.
Frenulium. Aluminium. I really cannot pronounce this word. Entrepreneurial. Son of a bitch.
Entrepreneurialism.
Entrepreneurialism.
Close enough.
Gavin doesn't need coffee. Gavin needs speech therapy. And inspiring others. So Ben has flown an airplane on his own and has been scuba diving in the Galapagos. He has seen the animals of the Tanzania and traveled all over Europe with a 6-month-old child in tow.
Wow.
Yeah. He has performed improv for over a decade, acted in several plays and even a movie. He has owned several businesses as well. His biggest passion is exploring the mind. In all of the personal growth work, the constant was that it all stems from the mind. Between personal growth and improv, he found his weird realm called expectations. And while most people would shy away from such a thing, he decided to tackle it head on. Along his journey, he decided that the only reason anyone gets upset is because their expectations hasn't been met. And he began teaching that in his success improv business. From there he noticed that there has to be a way to use the upset feeling to fix a situation, and he created an amazing how to stop being upset flowchart. From there, it was a simple step of taking everything that he explored on the subject and put it in a book called What to Expect When Having Expectations. Ben has also authored several other books, which can be found on his book page. We have a link here that I will drop into the comments section for everybody to check out his books. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Ben Windsor. Did you click it? Brandon, you son of a bitch.
I didn't even touch anything. I'm watching you, and I'm like, I want to help him read this, but I can't. I want to, like, he's doing well. And then the comments coming in had me in tears. Like, read it like a script. Oh, Gavin, how's the whiskey in your coffee this morning? Oh my God, I was enjoying.
That's what it felt like. So it felt like my tongue just did not want to participate in the speech.
No. So, ladies and
It
gentlemen,
certainly makes for a more interesting intro. That's for sure.
like, I bet you've never had one like that before.
We spent half the time on just the word entrepreneurialism. So
I know.
I know. You said that so easy. Like I feel like I'm trying to learn a new language right now. I don't know why. That just entrepreneur. I can say that just fine. Imperialism. Say that just fine. Entrepreneur is done.
It's called supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I can say that fine. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I can say that just fine too. Like,
Perfect.
I feel like it's just a mental thing now.
I think it is. Like, you've caught a block and it's stuck there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ben Winter. Ben is the author of What to Expect When Having Expectations. We had expectations that Gavin was going to be able to read this right. Why was our expectations not able to be met the way we thought? I love you, Gavin. I'm doing that as a joke. Ben, tell us a little bit about your book and why we should not have expectations on one another. Or should we?
Well, the funny thing you just said that is that it's impossible not to have expectations. So anybody who says like, I just don't have expectations, well, that's an expectation in and of itself. So it's impossible not to have them. So having them it's not a huge deal unless you make it a big deal. And that's kind of, I think, what happens here. The book is really kind of dives in, have them where they come from, and then what to do with it when it starts going met. Because most of the time when things happen the way we expect them to happen, we don't even think twice about the fact that that's an expectation that we have. Like when we wake up in the morning and we expect the electricity to work, the refrigerator to be running, like those are expectations we have. And unless it's not happening, we don't even think twice about it. So that's kind of the quick basics of the book is just to really help people understand why they have them and what to do when they're kind of upset. So, but yeah, you're going to have expectations. So don't even entertain the idea that you can't have them or you can get rid of them. So
I think that's very well a great way to start it. We can't get rid of our expectations. So I have to ask questions. First one I have to ask is, you traveled all over Europe with a 6-month-old child in tow. Like, how are you right there alone? You set yourself up for like amazing things just because that's going to drive anybody crazy. Tell us about your trip around Europe and what you learned from that and how to build to be the best Ben.
Yeah, so the trick is to go when the child can't kind of walk on their own and crawl around, because you have to hold on to them the whole time. So it's really easy to travel with a child who's like brand new up to about 9 months to a year, depending on when they start to crawl. Yeah. I mean, my son, like at 8, like he never crawled. He did a spider walk. Like his knees never touched the ground. It was just ridiculous. But, right about month 7.5, 8, he was like, I want to do this whole walking around thing that you guys are doing. And so it only lasted 3 months that we were in Europe, but at 6 months old, it was easy. You just carry him around, you do what you want to do. And the cool thing is when you're in Europe, everybody loves babies. So we got like the super best treatment ever. Otherwise we would have just been 2 standard American tourists that nobody cared about. So it was really kind of cool having the child with us. And So what I learned, I would say, is like take a baby when you go traveling because people love you more. I don't
There
whether
we go.
it's your
So I need
child
a
or somebody
passport and a
else's.
baby then.
Yeah, just
Passport and
borrow
a
somebody.
baby.
Yeah. just
How
borrow
was
somebody.
how were the plane rides with such a young infant? Was that difficult, or did they end up is it male or female? You got a
As a
son or
boy.
daughter?
As a boy.
Yeah. So okay, so your son then after like the first couple ones, was he all right, or did he just kind of, he's so young, they get fussy when they get fussy? Were the plane rides difficult, or you mostly sleep through them?
Every plane ride was fine, with the exception of coming from Spain to New York City. Like every other plane ride, he slept the entire time. He just hung
Nice.
out, didn't care. On that trip, that leg, man, he was up the whole time. He didn't want anything to do except like he wanted to crawl around the plane, and you're just like, okay, death trap after death trap, gotta follow him around. So, but he wasn't like crying and fussing, so nobody was upset that we were the couple with a baby. So
You were those people, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
always either that's good. It always seems like either on a plane or in the movie theater. There's always that one couple that has the infant, and everyone looks over them like, I swear to God, if that baby makes one noise. The baby makes one noise, we're taking the whole thing down.
I think those are just Americans. Apparently, when you're in Europe or another part of the world, they love babies. So the rest of us are just being cranky buttheads, Ben, you've flown an airplane. You've scuba dived in the Galapagos. You've owned your own businesses. You've traveled a lot, it seems like, because it's mentioned in the bio twice. With all of that, how does it feel to be James Bond?
James Bond. I mean, it's really cool. No comment.
No comment. I can't talk about that.
I
but
have to kill you all. Thanks for that.
It was something. I'm sorry I brought out your secret identity, but you've flown an airplane, you've scuba dived, you've done things that a lot of people haven't done. What made you get into these things? Because I'm going to get into the improv in a second. I want to know about the improv, because when you don't have expectations, improv is a great tool for helping you drop those, because you don't know what the other person's going to do and you have to be ready for anything. But I want to focus on traveling and family and all that at first. With that, you've scuba dived, you've flown a plane. What made you decide to break barriers and keep pushing yourself to do new things? Because it was right after college, it says in your bio. Tell us about this.
So you probably can't tell from this interview, but I used to be really shy and had no self-confidence whatsoever. And that kind of lasted all the way through college. So it was after college that I started to do some personal growth work. And that's where I really kind of started breaking out of my shell and trying new things. And the funny thing is, the goal was never to get like my pilot's license, but my goal was to fly a plane on my own. Well, when you're working on getting your pilot's license, there's several times where you're flying the plane on your own. And let me tell you, there's no other time you feel more alive than when you're landing a plane for the first time by yourself. And there's nobody there to like save your ass. So, you're landing that plane. It's like, I'm either doing this or I'm dead. There's like no middle ground. And so that was kind of insane. I never did get my pilot's license because my instructor and I had a big argument like the day before I was supposed to go get my check ride. And neither one of us wanted to be adult enough to sort that one out. So,
oh, wow.
But even then, I still wouldn't have my pilot's license today because it's such an expensive hobby to keep up, and I would have lost it by now anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You don't need to go into it if you don't want to. But was it like was there like a personal thing that happened, or was there like a situation, or just like a political view that came up? Like,
no, it was like we were walking out to the plane because we were going to go through everything one last time before I went up with the person who like signs off on you being able to fly a plane. And he was asking me all kinds of questions that I swear to God, I would never think twice about if I was crashing. He's like talking about the electrical system and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, we never went over that. It's not in the books. I'm not trying to perform maintenance if I'm crashing in the middle, it's not a thing. And he disagreed completely. He's like, you're not even ready. And I'm like, why are you talking maintenance? I'm here for pilot training. You can't do pilot training and maintenance training at the same time. It's not a thing. And, so obviously I'm not the expert. He probably was right, but I was just frustrated as hell with him because I'm like, whatever. So it was just a disagreement in what the hell I was supposed to know, and
gotcha.
Whatever.
I can imagine that. Well, you take all the classes and you're getting ready to sign off, and then he's like, "Hey, here's a whole bunch of new information for you."
That's what
I could see.
Like. That's exactly what it felt like. I'm like, you never went over this. Like, seriously.
What about scuba diving, though? You scuba dived in the Galapagos. First off, that has to be absolutely amazing. Yeah. But scuba diving's a whole nother level. Like, landing a plane is one thing. Being underwater with an oxygen tank that could run out, and then you're like, oh, crap, there's a shark. Like, Gavin's laughing because he's like, that doesn't happen. I promise you it does. Sharks are everywhere. But
no, I know that marine life is definitely dangerous. There's a special kind of knife made specifically for scuba divers called a wasp knife. And what it does, it has in the handle, it has a little cartridge of CO2, and there is a button on it. And it's made for, like, if something that was marine, if you're scuba diving, came and, like, tried to attack you, when you stab it, there's a tube that runs through the top of the blade all the way to the tip. And you would hit that button, and it would, after you stab whatever it is, it shoots out all that CO2 extremely quick, and it inflates the whatever it is, and then it also freezes the wound, so that way it doesn't bleed and attract more predators, and then it floats to the top.
I could have definitely used that when I went. Would have been less afraid.
Yeah, it's a badass knife. Like,
Ben's face was like, "Why didn't I have that?"
Yeah, why didn't they give that to me and talk about it in scuba training? Yeah.
Oh,
so the whole scuba thing was. I was doing, like I said, I was doing a lot of personal growth work, and we knew that we were going on a trip internationally. We didn't know where. We didn't know what was going on. There was just sort of like talk that it might be someplace tropical. So I was like, all right, if I'm going someplace tropical, like, let me get my scuba certification going just in case. And so I went to the classes. I did the certification dives and all that fun stuff. And we ended up going to the Galapagos. And the group I was with, they had all been diving like all over the place, many dives, and I had never actually been in the ocean on a dive. And so here I am with all these people, all those friends of mine, and they're all going on this intermediate dive, and here I am, a beginner diver, right? And so I'm already in great peril. And when we're on the boat going out to the location that we go, it was funny because they're asking everybody how many dives they've done, and they got to me and I said 2, because that's how many you have to do to get certified, and they all just sort of look at each other like, we're going to lose one today. And it didn't make me feel any better, but the place we went diving the day before, they did have hammerhead sharks, so I was expecting to dive with hammerheads, and we did not, so whatever. So, no sharks. I didn't need the knife. It was all good.
That's good. I would be more worried about an octopus than a shark.
Yeah, I had that experience. I got scuba certified as well. And one thing I was trying to do, I found this octopus, and this little one. And I didn't want to hurt it, right? So I had my knife in my hand, and I was going to poke at it. And then I was like, no, I don't want to hurt it. So I turned the knife over so that I poked it with the handle. Well, it grabbed the knife and it like ripped the knife out of my hand. And I was like, son of a bitch, I cut myself because I was trying not to hurt it. It was
and now you got an octopus with a knife.
Octopuses, they are strong. And especially if they're in their hole or whatever, because they got 7 arms to be able to hold on to the hole and 1 arm to grab whatever you're poking at them. It was a learning experience.
That's an apex predator you just created right there.
So, Ben, with all of that, you've flown a plane, you've scuba dived, you've done improv and acting, you've been on stage. There's a lot of expectations in all those different things, and we create them in our own minds, from being improv funny to being on stage and connecting with the audience to not crashing a plane. So, with all of that, how did you build the mantra, is the best way I'm going to say that, of not having expectations with having expectations?
So it's an interesting thing. Most people, when they think of improv, they don't understand that there are rules that people follow when they're doing improv. And if you've ever watched improv that's been good, like the show Whose Line Is It Anyway, all the people on stage, they're following the same set of rules, and that is why it works. So the expectation of an improv artist is that everybody on stage is going to be following these rules. And if nothing else, you have the expectation that you, as the improv artist, will follow the rules if nobody else does. And that's kind of one of those pieces where once you have that expectation, everything just works. When you're performing with people that are following the same set of rules, everything works great. And then if you invite somebody up on stage that's never done improv and they totally just break every rule possible, you're able to handle it because you're following the rules and you know how to kind of work with all those sort of things. So there was one time where, had somebody come up on stage and I'm improving, I'm acting. And I kneeled down and I asked her hand for marriage because that's what the scene called for. She's like, I'm already married. And I stood up and I was like, you bitch. Well, I didn't say it. I treated it like she just broke my heart and she was cheating. Because I'm saying following the rules, and you got to take what comes to you when you're on stage. And so I rolled with it. I'm like, okay, so you're already married. Cool. I'm going to play with that. Because she completely denied the scene. Like she wasn't acting, like she was just up there terrified. And that's just how it works. So you just have to expect that you're going to be able to do it.
Sometimes things like that are almost gifts, though. Like that, in a sense, that was like a gift for you to have a sort of a funny moment, or you could have even taken that into a very emotional moment if you wanted to as well. Like those kind of things are very versatile. As far as denying the scene, but typically, definitely the yes and is like one of the most important rules, where you just agree and then you add on to the situation.
Yeah, exactly. So yes and was great, and it's one of the rules I talk about in my other book. And it's so important, and just in life in general, because all we do every moment of every day of our lives is improvise. So if you can't accept what is and do something about it, then you are going to just kind of have an upset moment in time where these people that get stuck on a day-by-day basis are like, it's not my fault, it's your fault. It's not my fault, it's your fault. Well, I mean, you have your part to play, so you kind of have to go from there.
So would you call yourself a yes man?
In a way, I'll take what comes my way and either, I'll set the boundary or say that's not okay with me. But I'm not going to deny that it's happening at the same time, if that makes sense.
You want to go skydiving?
I don't want to go skydiving.
Why not? Wait. Why not?
I would rather fly the plane everybody jumps out of and land it. Even though I've never flown it before, that sounds like way more interesting to me than jumping out of it. So
fair enough.
Really? So, all right. Where are you located? I was trying to find that on your website. I wanted to ask. Are you like in the U.S.? So we're going to be in Vegas at the end of June. All right. We're going to go to the Grand Canyon. Would you fly our plane so we could jump and go through the Grand Canyon and land at the bottom of that? That's something Gavin and I were looking to do. Would you help us with that, Ben?
I would, except that I'll be in Alaska. So
where in Alaska?
Ketchikan.
Okay, well, I don't think we're going to make it there. Well, that just stinks. There goes our pilot, Gavin. So,
damn.
So, all right, I just found this on your website, and I'm curious about it. I want to share this for everybody. You have a flow chart right here about how to stop being upset that you could download the free version of it. Can you explain this to us and why this is what you created? Because it's all blurred here. I can't just show everybody. I'm going to make them go download it.
Exactly. It's blurred, so you have to download it.
I love it.
So basically, the whole premise is that, you start from the moment of being upset in whatever the situation is. And as long as you're willing to do something about that moment in time, you can grow from it. It's the people that stay upset for months, weeks, years, that just kind of miss out on life. So if you take those moments in time where you're upset, you can kind of work through this flow chart. And the first question is, did you know you had the expectation? And most of the time, we don't even know we had the expectation, let alone where it even came from. And so when you didn't know you had the expectation, you can immediately take a step back and say, Where was this expectation from? Did I get it from my parents growing up? Did I watch something on TV and decide that's how life worked? Whatever that might be, we have that expectation from somewhere in our past. And so then you get to explore it. And maybe at that point you just decide, cool, that doesn't work for me. And now I'm not upset or whatever. But typically you're going to kind of keep going on and decide if it's a reasonable expectation. Like my expectation of people driving on the roads is completely unreasonable. I know we all took the same tests, but still people don't know how to drive. So go figure. But with any expectation, you have to be able to communicate your side of things and hear the other person's side of things and actually come to an agreement. And so since there's millions and millions of drivers that suck, how am I supposed to have a conversation with all of them and all come to an agreement? It's just not going to happen. And so it's completely unreasonable for me to expect everyone to drive the same way I do. And so I don't get upset in traffic nearly as much as I used to. But other things, I'm able to talk to somebody and we're able to come to an agreement and decide, what's going to work for both parties. So, yeah.
I think that's something that, an expectation talk is something that I was told to have with a significant other in the beginning of a relationship, and it's completely changed how I viewed dating in the early stages. Like when I was younger, it was always, who's the nicest or the prettiest or whatever, like the smartest, whatever trait that I was desiring the most at that time. But then now when I talk to people, I think I always ask them, like, all right, what do you expect in a relationship in these scenarios? How do you want me to react? How do you react, to see if there's a natural compatibility there or not? And if there isn't, if it's something you're able to work for or work through. I think that's something that people should not only do with their relationships, but their business or their career path as well. I know I feel like a lot of the times people go into jobs or careers thinking it's going to be like one thing, but they don't actually ask about it. They just assume, and then they end up really unhappy in whatever path they took with it.
Absolutely. It works everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. I mean, a lot of people don't like online dating, but guess what? Online dating puts forth so many expectations. Like, I don't want to date a smoker. I'm, this politically leaning. This is my religion. And it's like, some people are like, well, that's a deal breaker. Done. Like, you don't even have to entertain a
quick
conversation.
And easy.
Where if you meet somebody in a bar or at a restaurant or out at the park, you now have to have all those expectation conversations as you're, starting that dating process. And, I appreciate online dating because it does weed out a lot of the deal breakers right off the bat. But in any relationship, it's going to be an ongoing conversation. You may expect something in the relationship at the beginning, and then 6 months later it changes because something changes. That's just how we are. We change. So that's the nature of it.
I think online dating. Yeah, I think online dating as well, specifically, is in a weird sense forcing people to become better at being charismatic and small talk, because they don't have the body language, they don't have the tone of their voice or the eye contact to be able to swoon each other. They have to just use their intellect, just use their words. They can use like emojis. That might help out a little bit, but for the most part, you have to be able to hold an actual conversation, which is very difficult for a lot of people.
It can be, absolutely. And I find that the weirdest thing is, like, sometimes you'll have really great conversations over text or messenger or whatever, and then you'll meet them in person and it's just like there's no chemistry. And you're like, where'd the chemistry go? Like, we were hitting it off really well with words, and now nothing. Or it's the opposite. It's like, you're boring as shit on words, but in person we have a great time. So
I love the way you say you're boring as shit in person, but on the phone you and I can talk. When you say expectations, like, you're figuring out your boundaries in yourself, would that be a way of saying that?
Absolutely. Boundaries are a great way of looking at expectations. They're almost synonymous or one and the same, because sometimes you don't know what your boundary is until somebody's starting to cross it. And, same thing with an expectation. And sometimes you have to set those expectations with other people and say, I'm not okay with you doing X, Y, Z. that's my boundary. So if you cross that, we have a problem. And so, yeah, they're absolutely, work hand in hand.
Let's say somebody crosses a boundary. I'm going to share the link for everybody and all that, but they cross one of your expectations, one of your boundaries. My expectations when I hold the door for someone is they say thank you. When they don't do it, I don't need to whisper in their ear asshole every time they don't do it. But that is one of my expectations, so thank you. But like when you have boundaries and somebody does cross one that's more than just holding a door and a thank you, how do you keep yourself from seeing that it's just them being them compared to it being they disappointed you by not meeting your expectations?
Yeah, so the flowchart really comes into play here because it's one of those situations where you kind of have to walk through it. Is it reasonable for me to have this expectation? I'd say growing up, if you grew up with a parent who taught you how to be a decent human being, holding the door open.
Yes.
Yeah, you expect yourself to say thank you if somebody holds the door for you. So why not expect that in return? At the same time, that person could be just having a bad day. They could have been brought up completely differently in that you don't hold the door for anyone. Like, we don't know where they came from. And until you take that next step and say, have you discussed this expectation with the other person? Well, obviously you're not going to take a stranger to the side and say, hey, I had this expectation that when I opened the door, you were going to say thank you. And they're going to be like, dude, you're fucking crazy. Like, what are you talking about? Right? They're going to walk away thinking you're a nutball. But if, if you're in a relationship and you hold the door and they don't say thank you, you could be like, hey, I was raised this way. This is my thought. Like, is it not the same for you? You can have that conversation, but you have to understand the other person's side of the equation before you can do anything about it. Because, something bigger where, you're living together and you're perfectly okay throwing your clothes in the corner and then once a week grabbing them, throwing them in the hamper or whatever, where they're like, nope, it goes in the hamper right away. You're going to have that conversation of like, I'm cool with this. I'm not cool with this. What's the agreement? Where do you come together and say it's okay? That's a small piece, but you can just kind of extrapolate and move it up into the chain of whatever.
Oh yeah.
But until you know what the other person's thinking, saying, doing, why they have the expectations they have, and you've discussed them, you can't even come to an agreement on what that boundary is. So,
has improv helped play a role in creating expectations and dropping them for yourself? Because I have a very good friend. He's one of the original people in Cleveland, Ohio that does improv. He comments on the show. I even text him saying, if you're not awake today, wake up and start playing so I can have him jump in with this, because he'd just have fun in the comments. But improv is a very good way of opening up creativity. B, it helps you realize that you never really know what the other person's saying, and it changes your own boundaries on who you are with not having expectations. I love that you have a book about that. Even like you have a book called Improve Your Self-Esteem. Can you, I like of all your books, I love your books, just so you know, I love how you have the titles and all that. I went through and looked at them. Improve your self-esteem. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how improv has affected everything you've been doing?
Yeah, so the personal growth was awesome, and it ultimately got me out of my own way and taking an improv class. But when I was on stage with improv, the one thing that I realized rules of improv is it doesn't matter if you screw up or do brilliant on stage. Nobody cares. They're like, this person's up on stage doing improv. They're making it up on the spot. It doesn't matter if you succeed or fail up there. Nobody expects anything but you to just be up there doing your thing. And I just absolutely felt completely at home when I was up there doing improv. It was the most freeing thing I've ever done in my life. And that's why, is because I didn't have any expectations of myself. I didn't have expectations that other people had expectations of me. And we do that a lot with, I expect that person to think I'm a jerk, or I expect that person to think I'm awesome, but we don't know what they think, or, most people don't even think about other people most of the time. They're just like, they're in their own little world thinking about themselves. So, but improv is one of those big pieces where you can kind of take whatever comes and you now have a tool set to deal with it. And so my expectation of me is that I know improv, and whatever comes my way, I'm going to be able to handle it. That's my expectation. And sometimes, I'm not perfect. I'll fail miserably. I'll get upset, but I at least have this tool set to say, Ben, you don't need to be upset. You have this tool set. You can work through it and figure something out. Yeah. So I'm not upset very much or very often. It's minutes instead of hours.
When you do get upset though, what is like, is it usually because like you're really tired and exhausted and hungry, or is it like a specific thing that will set you off, or is it like little things that just keep building up over time? Like what eventually will get you to some, maybe not a full-on breaking point, but you start to crack a bit?
Yeah, hangry is one of them for sure.
Yeah.
I eventually was like, I just need food. That's what's happening. Yeah. But I'm able to recognize it because I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
But other times that I get upset, and this is probably going to be more for people that are listening, is that if I forget to set the boundaries, or I continually don't update the boundaries, or whatever it is with somebody, it will eat away over time, and then it does become a full-blown issue. But I'm able to recognize that as well, and say, whoa, hold on, I need to take a step back. I didn't even tell you about this boundary, and you're crossing it, so we need to have a conversation. And that's one of the beautiful things is, being able to take that step back and say, whoa, my bad. I didn't do my part.
Yeah.
Because we all have a part to play. You can't blame everybody else for your shit. It's your shit. You got to deal with it.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important part, is being able to say, hey, this was my bad, but also recognizing too, because some people, especially in my generation, have an issue with apologizing too much and thinking that everything is their fault. So I feel like there's a balance between saying, hey, sorry, I didn't tell you that this is my boundary, let's have a conversation, and then on the other side, just apologizing for any time that there's any kind of conflict at all.
Yeah, and that's not healthy. It's not at all, because there's a difference between being responsible and being the cause. I don't know how, let me see if I can explain it. Like, if you get mugged in the alleyway, you're responsible for being in the alley. You're responsible for, being out at that time of day. You're responsible for being alone. You're responsible for everything that led up to that moment. Now, you are being mugged. That is not your fault.
Yeah.
But you did put yourself in that position. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like it's okay to be mugged because you put yourself in that position. But you have to understand, like, maybe next time go with a friend. Don't go to that area. Don't go at that time. Don't walk that. It's like there's so many things surrounding the choices that we make, and you have to take responsibility for the choices that you make, as well as the choices that you don't make. Mm-hmm. If somebody else makes the choice for you, that's on you, because you didn't make the choice for yourself. So somebody who's apologizing for everything, that to me says they didn't make any choice, and they've decided to just take the blame, even though has nothing to do with them. Maybe the other person's having a bad day. That's on them. And you don't have to take on their bad energy because they're having a bad day. So, it's this very weird area in life of taking responsibility for your actions. Because nobody wants to be a victim. Rape is not a cool thing. And yeah, you may have been in a part of town at a certain time. It is definitely not your responsibility that you were raped. I mean, that's just not a thing. Like, I want to be very clear on that. You are still a victim of rape, but you chose to go out. You chose to go by yourself, or whatever the situation is. Every choice leading up to that moment was your responsibility. And yeah, maybe it was your responsibility to fight your ass off and kill the fucker. I don't know. I've never been raped. I've never been in that situation. I've never raped anybody. Like, I don't want anybody to think that I think, if you're raped, it's your fault.
You're good. We get what you're saying. Yeah.
That's where I think people really need to start focusing in on whatever choices you make are your choices, period. And you're responsible for them. So if you walk into a store and you're bitching at the manager, okay, what was your choice leading up to that? Can you come at it from a different way and say, hey, I my understanding was that is way more productive than just bitching and complaining. Because
See, I never want to be the person. I never want to be the person to bitch at any sort of customer service person, because I never know if I'm going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and they pull something out of their back pocket and shoot up the store, starting with me. That's what goes in my mind. Anytime I'm in public and I see someone yelling at a customer service person, especially like a manager or something, I think, oh, that person has seen a lot. You don't know when it's going to be too far. Like, you might want to bring your tone down a minute. Your people are crazy. They'll snap.
You know, and it goes right back to the whole golden rule. Like, how do you want to be treated? Do you want somebody yelling at you? Like, it's just, you know, make a different choice. If you don't want to be yelled at, don't yell at people, period.
Yeah.
It takes some responsibility for your own actions, really. So,
yeah.
And that's where, you know, it all kind of, you know, the self-confidence is really just kind of owning your own world and saying, like, I have the choices that I'm going to make. And if I'm not happy with the choice I made, I get to make a different choice. I get to accept that I made the wrong choice, but I also know I can make a different choice.
100%. With that, like, have you always been so laid back, or was this something that did take, see, I knew I was going to get, like, would you say this is something that took time? Because I know for me, it took years to get myself into a spot where you don't use emotions behind what you're doing. You actually learn how to keep yourself balanced. And I say that as someone who loves to be loud and funny and out front, and learning to balance myself without expectations of others, or creating boundaries, has always been something different for me. Were you always someone that's been able to do these things, or are you someone who, no, I love it. All right, go on. Tell me, Ben.
Oh no, like, see, when you have no self-confidence, like, the world is out to get you. Like, everything is horrible. And I used to be very uptight and very concerned about what everybody thought about me and everything. And I can't say that it's one thing that kind of led me to where I am today, but personal growth definitely helped. Improv has helped. And I think improv even more so because it is personal growth. It's learning that you just accept, hey, this person's yelling at you because they're having a bad day, because they were raised by animals. Like, who knows why they're yelling at you? But it's not your fault.
Yeah.
I mean, and if it is your fault, own up to it and say, my bad, because it's going to diffuse the situation right then and there. You know, it's like, you're right. I'm at fault here. Like, it's not the whole, like, apologizing for everything. It's like, yeah, no, I'm the one to blame. Like, let's fix it. Oh, you mean I don't have to yell at you for 5 more minutes? No, let's fix it.
Yeah.
You know, it's done. So I think improv definitely has helped a lot, because I'm just able to flow with the situation. And life is too damn short and too much fun to sit here and be upset about things all the time.
How do you typically go about defusing a situation if you're ever in some sort of, like, you feel tension building, you feel conflicts coming on? How do you defuse a situation?
I'll ask a lot of questions, you know, to help understand where the person's coming from and why they're saying what they're saying. Because until I understand them, there's no reason to have a conversation. We're not on the same page, you know. So it really comes down to, like, hey, I see you're getting upset. Like, hold on a second. Like, what is happening right now? Like, what are you thinking? Like, I'm not trying to blame them for anything. It's like, I want to understand what's going on for you. And it's a lot of I statements, like, I don't understand this, or can you explain this to me, because whatever. And a lot of times people will say, oh, okay, you want to, like, work with me here. You actually care. And it just diffuses the situation really quick. And that's, you know, if you start blaming somebody for getting upset, all they're going to do is get more upset. I mean, that's our biggest problem in the world today, is like, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. No, you're wrong. You know, if you just sit here and blame each other for being wrong, people will fight tooth and nail for years, you know. But if you stay like, hey, let me ask you some questions so we can all get on the same page, then you're having dialogue, you're having communication, you're actually going to come to an agreement, rather than just telling somebody that they're wrong for, you know, if somebody's upset, they're upset for a reason. Like, let's figure it out.
I agree.
Can't tell them that they're wrong for being upset.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about your nationwide library challenge?
So it's the idea is that if you belong to a library, you can typically go in and request a book that an author has written if it's not sitting there in the library. And I can't think of anything better than, for my book to be sitting on a library shelf, somebody coming along and saying, hey, I have expectations. Let me read that.
Yeah.
And they didn't know about it otherwise. Hint, there's a lot of libraries in this country. My book would be pretty well off if it is monetarily driven, I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time I think it's really cool that you walk through a library and hey, there's a book, that's a cool title, let me look at it. You
are quite popular in Alabama and Montana, I see.
I am. All right, cool.
Like it's linked up to all these ones, and then I click Ohio and there's none, and we're both from Ohio. So Gavin, you and I are going to have to get him into a bunch of these places in Ohio. We're going to start going to different libraries and just being like, where's Ben Winter's book? I have expectations that I wanted to read this book, and there's not here.
Exactly. So if everybody goes,
if we did go into one of our local libraries, we could probably request it and they would order it for us.
Yeah, most libraries do that for any book that you're interested in. So
Jessica Dugas from the Breakthrough Show chiming in. We know what's up here in Alabama. I love it. So it is a holiday, and I want to thank you for coming on during Memorial Day. And you're in Colorado, so you're 2 hours ahead of us, or 2 hours behind us. We're almost at lunchtime. Gavin wouldn't even be up yet if he was at your time zone. That's a joke, buddy. I love it. He nods. Yes, I knew he was going to do that.
No, I'd be up. I've been trying to wake up earlier. I wouldn't be up today because I was up super late last night because of the holiday. But typically, I'd be up this time.
Ben and I both chuckled. We're like, "Where's he going to go with this one?" What are our? I was
just doing a family cookout.
Nice. I love it. Are you doing anything particular for the holiday today, Ben? And did you know that you're supposed to at 3:00 give a moment of silence? It's actually a law.
I did not know that it was a law, so that's cool. Now I'm recovering from the long weekend. My son had a lacrosse tournament up in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and so there was a lot of sun, lots of drinking, lots of watching kids beat each other with sticks, and so I'm gonna recover today and hang out.
I love it. Recover. Have a good one. Now, being Memorial Day, are you going to do anything just with the family? Like, do you do anything with your kids and all that? Because it's not a holiday. A lot of people, they know it's about the memorials of people who have fought for them, but the history behind it has a lot. And this is a pretty cool holiday that we get to spend with our families. A lot of schools are going on summer break now. Do you get to do anything cool with your family today? Or are you guys just kind of, like you said, you did it already and you're just chilling?
For the most part, already did it and chilling, but my dad's a Air Force vet, so probably hang out with him and, do some family stuff. So.
Brett Gordon's in the background. He's helping with the background stuff today, and he's an Air Force vet, and he's sitting there, and the minute you said Air Force, he went. I was watching him in the background. I'm like, wow, that was pretty funny. So with everything you've done, learning to create boundaries to expectations and who you are as Ben, how have you noticed your development change as an individual flow into your kids?
It's so funny because I just had no, it is. It's a huge topic. So it's like, how do I break this down? I get to watch myself parent my own child. And that's the beauty of personal growth training. Personal growth, all it really is awareness training. It teaches you to be aware of your actions, your thoughts, your beliefs, all that stuff. It doesn't tell you what to believe or how to act. It just says, hey, here's a mirror, take a look. And so as a result of doing all this work, I get to watch myself parent my own child. And then I get to see, where am I making mistakes as a parent? Where am I choosing to do something different than what my parents did? And also understanding how I grew up doesn't exist. My son is growing up with the internet, with video games that are connected to other people, with cell phones that are connected to other people. If I wanted to connect with other people, I went to my neighbor's house and I hung out.
Yeah.
And there was a very small world when I grew up. Now, I mean, my child, he has video game friends he's never met, but they live, on the East Coast. They live in California. They live all over the world. And I don't know how to parent that because I wasn't parented that way. So I get to make new choices and new ideas. And luckily, I also have the internet to say, like, how do you handle this situation? And I can look at how 100 parents have done something and decide for myself, hey, what's the best approach here? I really love the idea that at some point, be like, have you done your homework? No. Well, if you want the Wi-Fi password, do your homework, right? There's incentive that was not around when I was a kid.
100%. 100% yes on that. Like, I kind of like that. You want the Wi-Fi? I have control of the Wi-Fi. I can give it to you. Like, I like that. I used to be grounded and it was not like that at all. Now it's completely different. Have you noticed the challenges have changed, like from when you were a kid to what your kid to raising your kids now? Like, I remember my dad always telling me, go play outside. And now, like, my niece, when she's here, he's like, oh, teach me how to play that on the computer and stuff like that. I just think it's funny to watch the difference in how my parents have changed with grandparents to parenting,
I was just looking at the comment about Curious George.
I saw that too. Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. Great parental instructional book. Curious George. Again, always be more inquisitive than judgmental. Gavin, what's your word of the day? I feel like I almost tripped up on inquisitive. What's your word of the day?
Piss off. I'm not saying it.
Come on. We all want to see you fail again.
We have no
entrepreneurialism.
He got it. Close enough.
There you go. Yeah. Close enough. Yeah.
So, Ben, while you're building up your best Ben and you're out there spreading your book and talking about improv and all this, what do you do and this is going to sound really weird the way I'm phrasing it because it's coming out of my head weird, but how do you self-love to keep yourself making sure that you don't let the influence of others, being an outspoken person, writing a book and trying to help people with expectations? How do you not create your own expectations for yourself that create judgment in you?
I think the best way to do it is to help others. I'm coming out and doing all these interviews on podcasts talking about, maybe how to better your life or not be upset for a little less in your life. The less upset we are, the more happy we are. And, if I can come along and help somebody, then great. And I just get to remind myself that every time that I do an interview. The other thing, I read a lot of sci-fi novels and I've decided to write my own. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe a third or a quarter of the way into a book. And I'm like, this is awesome. I want to see where this book goes. And it's all in my head, but I am still improving as I write it because it's already taken turns that I didn't expect it to take. And so I'm like, this is really cool. So this is why filmmakers make films, because they want to see it. They want to see where the movie goes. So same thing with authors. They want to see where their story goes. And so I'm having a lot of fun doing that too.
I love it. Go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah. So we are coming up at the end of the show here. The last segment that we like to do is we like to end with some final words. Sometimes they're fortune cookie little things. Sometimes they're words of positivity. Sometimes it's just wrapping up or summarizing things from the show. I'm going to have Brandon go first since I went first for majority of last week. I'm going to throw him on the spot really quick. And then I will go, and then we'll have you go so you can see how everything is done.
Sounds good.
So, ladies and gentlemen, take a moment today, and I know I've said it a couple times, but I think it needs to be said. At 3 p.m. your time today, do yourself a favor and take that moment to think of somebody who has kept you free, has kept you. It's a holiday that we get to enjoy. It's the beginning of summer for a lot of people, and we get to get our newest experiences in life by building up our best us. How do you do that without taking a moment to remember those who kept you, who kept you free? Take a moment today, love yourself, but get out there and take that moment of silence to love others and be grateful for the ones that have kept us free. Gavin?
Very well said. What I wanted to wrap up, what I'm taking away from today's episode is learning what your expectations are. Before you're able to set them, you have to learn what they are. Sit down with yourself or someone that you trust, a family member, a friend, or maybe even go online and talk to a complete stranger for some outside perspective that you never would have had. But try to take the time to really figure out what your expectations are and what your boundaries are, so that way you're able to communicate them with other people. So you're able to tell other people, hey, this is what I expect from you. This is what I bring to the table in this situation.
Love that. Very well said. Very well said. I'm actually going to, do you want to bring Brett Gordon in, make him do one just to throw him off?
We can do that.
All right, Brett Gordon, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to give us one, and that way Ben gets another minute to think.
You're muted, Brett.
No, leave it alone. Let him go. It's the best stuff he's ever said.
That's true. The most intelligent thing I said all day.
I love you, Brett.
Couple things. One is today is a day not necessarily of celebration, but of honoring. Mm-hmm. Honor those that gave it all. Days of celebration are others, but at the same time, like I said before, celebrate the time that you had to spend with those that may have given it all. Mm-hmm. So that's something to remember and always to maintain and remind ourselves that they're always with us. Secondly, just as a clarification, because a lot of times people get confused about this, and it had to do with things that we were talking about before, but we're not really fighting communism versus socialism versus capitalism. Those are economic systems. What we're really going after is fascism, totalitarianism, and dictatorships. That's something to be very well aware of, because I listen to people on the news all the time. They're talking about they're communists because they're controlling. No. That's two different things. And we really need to understand what we're referring to, because what it does is it changes the connotation. Mm-hmm. And we need to remember that what we're really trying to do is create democracies, republics, and freedom. Though a lot of that is something that is kind of slowly being taken away from us when we have cancel culture and things like that. So be very well aware of what we're really trying to achieve. And what you are really trying to achieve, because some people don't necessarily believe in complete freedom. They want some level of control over what's being said. Anyhow, that being done, honor Memorial Day. I know when I think back of even the couple of guys that I mentioned here, it brings sadness, but at the same time, like I said, I am so happy that I had the opportunity to know them while they were alive. Thank you, and enjoy the Memorial Day and honor those that gave.
All right.
And Ben.
I'm like, I guess it's my turn. So I'm like, there's my face on screen. I always like to tell people that in today's world, everybody says, don't be upset, don't get upset, stop being upset. And I'm going to be the one that says, go ahead, get upset. But don't stay there. Recognize it for what it is. It's a moment in time where you can grow leaps and bounds if you so choose. One of the things, we're talking about Memorial Day, so people dying, people who we've lost. And, we get upset. And why do we get upset? Because we had expectations around that relationship. We expected them to be around longer. We expected to have a conversation that we never did. We expected to see their face, more often. Whatever it may be, we had an expectation. And now that they're gone, all you can do is accept that that's what's happened. They're gone. And whatever you thought you had or were going to have with that relationship is no more. But you can do something about it. You can remember them in a different light. You can choose not to make the same choices with somebody else. You know, a lot of people, they'll lose a parent and they wish they had had a closer relationship. So then they go to the other parent and they have that closer relationship because they don't want the same mistake to happen again. So, you know, take those moments in time, take those moments today when you're like, I'm upset about so-and-so losing their life, or, you know, whatever it may be, and just, you know, grow from it. Choose to grow from those moments in time of being upset.
Very well said. Very well said. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Java Delight, the morning show in between your coffee and the first start of your day, with giving you a shot of adrenaline to help you finish the day and give you a little bit of delight. Ben, thank you one more time for being on here. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben's website, I'm going to share at the bottom right now. Do not hesitate to go over a copy of his book. Follow it. Improv. We look forward to seeing you and Wayne Brady goofing around on stage one day. Thank you again. Get out there, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful day. And remember, think of those. And Brett, say it, because you said it better than I did. I'm going to go and I was trying to quote what you said about remembering those who like spreading love. I'm losing my mind. I sound like Gavin now.
I'm not exactly sure what you were saying, but I would just say honor those that gave.
There you go. That's it. Closer than I had. Thank you guys. Have a great one.